All right, colleagues. Yes, we are looking at exchange rate systems. All right, starting with the floating exchange rate, where the exchange rate is determined by supply and demand of a currency. Okay, or basically the market forces, because supply and demand is part of the market forces. But yes, all right. So remember, whenever we say demand for the kwacha, what does demand for the kwacha mean, colleagues? When we say demand for the kwacha has risen, what are we meaning in simple words? And who demands the kwacha? Hey, colleagues. Mr. Twambo. Yes, yes. We say demand for the kwacha. What do we mean? Wonderful, Mr. Twambo. Wonderful. I'm seeing an A plus here. Colleagues, aren't we seeing an A plus here already? Yes, affirmative. Your research should be on exchange rate systems in fourth year, okay, Mr. Trump? Okay. Yes, yes. Demand for the kwacha, foreigners wanting to purchase Zambian goods or services. Okay. Yes. So they're going to be converting their currencies into the Zambian kwacha. So it's foreigners who demand the kwacha. Then what about supply of the kwacha, Mr. Trumbo again? Uh-huh. Say it for the class, Mr. Twambo. Maybe someone has just joined in now, but then you've said opposite. They never got the first part. Yes, supply of the kwacha. This is where we're converting the Zambian kwacha into foreign currency. Okay, it's us Zambians who supply the kwacha. Okay, so it's when us Zambians are purchasing goods and services from abroad. Okay, we convert our kwachas into the foreign currency so that we can purchase those goods. All right, so that's what the floating exchange rate is about. Okay, it's all about supply and demand of your currency, and that's what determines the exchange rate. So we're going to look at this example here. All right, we're looking at Zambia and South Africa. All right, here we have the exchange rate. One Zambian kwacha equals 0.89 rands. Okay, I hope you remember how to read these quotations here. So as you can see, it's 0.89, one Zambian kwacha, 0.89 rands. Then we come to South Africa here. We're saying 1 rand equals 1 kwacha, 12 ngwe. Okay. So we're going to say, imagine that Zambia and South Africa are transacting with each other. Okay. And we're going to see how supply and demand is going to affect the exchange rates. Okay. So if we look at scenario one, okay, scenario one where we're saying Zambia is exporting to South Africa. Okay, Zambia exports to South Africa. All right. So when we Zambians, oh, also on this graph here, on this Zambian graph here, who demands the kwacha here? It's the South Africans. So I'll put SA here. Okay. The ones who demand the kwacha are the South Africans. The ones who supply the kwacha, the Zambians. So as you can see, Z here. And then on this graph for South Africa, the ones who demand the rand, Zambians. The ones who supply the rand, South Africans. Okay. So if we're saying Zambia is exporting to South Africa, it means the South Africans are the ones who are purchasing our goods or our services. All right. So in order for the South Africans to purchase Zambian goods and services, they need to supply the rand, meaning they need to convert the rand into the kwacha to purchase our goods and services. So it means there's an increase in the supply of the rand. Okay, so what will happen on this graph here for South Africa here? There will be an increase in the supply of the rand. Okay, so the supply curve shifts to the right here. Yes. So as the South Africans are supplying the rand, it means they're converting that rand into kwacha. So what is happening on the Zambian graph here? Demand for the kwacha increases here. So now let's see what happens to the exchange rates. Okay. So since the South Africans are supplying the rand, increase in supply, so we see the exchange rate will drop here. Okay. When the supply of a currency increases, its value depreciates. Okay. So in this case here, from 1 rand equaling 1 kwacha 12 ngwe, it might drop down to 1 rand equals 0.9 kwacha. So meaning the rand has depreciated here in relation to the kwacha. 1 rand initially was 1 kwacha 12 ngwe, now it's 0.9 kwacha. Then on the Zambian side, the kwacha will appreciate. Okay. So since 1 rand equals 0.9 kwacha, then 1 kwacha is just going to be just a 1 over 0.9. Okay. If you want to get the other exchange rate, just put a 1 over it and you get it. So it's a 1 over 0.9. Yes. 1 kwacha now becomes 1.11 rand. So the kwacha has appreciated in relation to the rand. Okay. And the rand has depreciated in relation to the kwacha. Any questions, colleagues, before we look at our second scenario? Just perspective. Okay. So here the scenario is we're exporting to South Africa. Okay. Our exports to South Africa have increased. We're exporting more to South Africa. Okay. So it means that the South Africans are buying our goods and services, right, Mr. Kasono? Yes, yes. So it means the South Africans have to pay for our goods and services, right? Yes. So in order to pay for our goods and services, they need to convert the rand into the kwacha, right? Yes. So they'll be supplying the rand, right? To buy these goods and services, they need to supply the rand, right? Yes. They don't need to demand the rand, no. They need to supply the rand. So that's why you've seen the increase, the supply curve has shift. It means the South Africans are converting those rands into kwacha. So when they're converting those rands into kwacha, now we come to the Zambian side. Doesn't that mean that they are demanding kwacha, Mr. Kasono? Yes, demand for our currency is going to increase, right? Yes, and when demand for our currency increases, the kwacha appreciates, right? Yes. Okay. So where was the confusion then? Um, yes, yes. Okay, scenario two. Zambia imports more from. Uh huh. To the left. Yes, when they stop buying Zambian goods and services, it means they supply less of their currency. Okay. So scenario two, there is high inflation in Zambia. Okay. Zambia has high inflation. Okay. So Mr. Twambo, this is where we're going to see the supply for South Africa now drop. Okay. Because if the price of goods and services, yes, if the price of goods and services rise in Zambia, okay, it means even these people who are buying from Zambia, they'll feel that effect. Okay, so we start again at this point here. One Zambian kwacha, this graph on the left here, one Zambian kwacha equals 0.89 rands. This graph on the right here, one rand equals 1 kwacha 12 ngwe. So I put the rand on top. Remember, base currency on top, quote currency at the bottom. Okay. Yes, so we said there's inflation in Zambia. Okay, South Africa gets goods from Zambia. Okay, they're a major importer from Zambia, buy Zambian goods, and then there is inflation, meaning the price of Zambian goods goes up. So it means the Zambian goods become expensive. All right. So what do? They stop buying Zambian goods and probably start buying Namibian goods or another country's goods. So what's going to happen is the supply of the rand is going to drop. So there, this curve here on the right here, supply of the rand drops. Okay. South Africans are buying fewer Zambian goods. Okay. South Africans are buying fewer Zambian goods. So it means they are converting less of the rand into kwacha. Okay. So what does that mean in Zambian terms here? It means demand for the kwacha is going to drop. Okay, because South Africans are not converting as many rands into kwacha as before. All right. So now let's see what happens to the exchange rates. Since the South Africans are buying less Zambian goods and services, so the supply of the rand drops. So when the supply of the rand drops, okay, the rand will appreciate in relation to the kwacha, let's say from 1.12 to let's say 1.5. Right? Then we come to the Zambian side here. The demand for the kwacha has dropped. All right. So meaning the kwacha is going to depreciate. You see? Always in cases, the one who appreciate, the other one has to depreciate all the time. Okay, so in this case, the kwacha is going to depreciate in relation to the rand. Okay, so let's say from 0.89 it go. Oh, we just say 1 over 1.5 to get the new exchange rate. 1 over 1.5. 0.66. Okay. Yes. So here, as we can see here, when supply of a currency drops, it appreciates. When the demand for a currency drops, it depreciates. Any questions? When, when supply of a currency drops, the currency appreciates. As we can see in this example here, supply of the rand dropped. All right, so the rand appreciated in relation to the kwacha. All right, so when supply of a currency drops, the currency appreciates. Then when demand for a currency drops, that currency depreciates.